Well, more than 1,000 Afghan refugees have relocated to Oklahoma City since September of 2021, and the total number statewide is nearly 1,900. Now, the Council on American Islamic Relations, or CARE, and St. John's Episcopal Church are working together to help them build successful new lives in America. Steve Shaw is here with an update on what's being done. Steve?
Rich, both CARE and church leaders will tell you they're getting a lot of help from other sources, much like it was nearly 6 months ago when we went to Tulsa and talked to some of the first Afghan refugees who came here to build new lives. You wonder what these kids are thinking, a half world away from anything and everything they ever knew.
Our head count at end of March was 1,008 Afghan arrivals to Oklahoma City.
Veronica Lazier is a Tulsa native and 2014 OU law grad, who's also civil rights director for the Council on American Islamic Relations, otherwise known as CARE, Oklahoma.
Oklahoma has never seen this large a number of refugees being resettled into our state, and we've definitely never seen this many in such a short amount of time. So none of this historic work would have been possible without the entire community coming together to say, this is the right thing to do. How do we make it happen?
When Kabul and the Afghan government crumbled last August, it was just a matter of weeks before Oklahoma City saw its first refugees. Refugees that have stayed in a handful of Oklahoma City hotels before transitioning into more permanent housing. Lazier says during traditional resettlement efforts, refugees stay in camps outside the U.S., then apply to come stateside.
These folks did not come here by that same process. They had to be airlifted out and evacuated from Afghanistan so quickly that there just simply wasn't time to go through that full process. So they're here on what's called a program of humanitarian parole. All of them have had the same background checks, vetting, biometric screenings, all of that stuff. The security concerns have all been met while they were in these safe havens overseas, and then they were airlifted here and brought to resettle under this humanitarian parole program. However, that's not a path to permanent residency.
From the day each one of these Afghans set foot in Oklahoma, a very important clock started ticking. All of them have to apply for either something called asylum or some form of a special immigrant visa. None of that is easy. They've got a year to successfully do it, and whoever files it has to know what they're doing. Right now, Lazier says the backlog is around 1.4 million cases nationwide.
So the Oklahoma City Afghan Legal Network exists to meet the legal needs of these families, to help them file for those asylum applications, prepare for the asylum interviews, and help try to ensure that once they've resettled here and started to rebuild new lives, that they'll be able to stay here permanently. I know that the Tulsa folks have had some great success with a program very similar to ours, and so we're trying to borrow some of the things that have worked in Tulsa and recreate them here in Oklahoma City.
Speaking of Tulsa, OETA was there in January when Catholic Charities of Eastern Oklahoma was in the middle of its largest mobilization of resources in history. They and two other organizations, including a Jewish synagogue, worked together to lessen the cultural blow for 900 Afghan refugees who also started trickling here last fall.
Folks who are here are ready to work. They're really going to do great things, I think, for our community. And we just have to kind of continue to support them a little longer, and then they're going to be producing some great things for us.
In Oklahoma City, St. John's Episcopal Church and CARE Oklahoma opened an Afghan resource center just last week. Its open hours are Mondays and Wednesdays, and it's home base for refugee families for supplies.
If we can defray the cost of some things, whether it's items for the kitchen, hygiene items, clothing, anything like that, that we can defray the cost of while people are building their lives here, and have to buy more expensive things like eventually a car, pay for things like rent on their home in about 6 months or so. If we can defray the cost of some other things, that'll allow people to save the money that they're making for some of those bigger purchases. And so we're always in need of hygiene items. We've got a list on our website.
Hund asked those wanting to donate to email her first at jhund@care.com so she can tell them what they need most of. The Oklahoma City-based nonprofit Sparrow Project is also involved.
They want to work, they are incredibly willing to work, they want to start making their own money.
That brings us to Feroz Bashari. He is the former communications director for the president of Afghanistan. He says he also served as liaison between the Afghan government and the U.S. for 15 years.
I wanted to be here. It was my choice. I had the options to either go to Virginia, areas around DC, California, but I said, okay, let me start from somewhere very different. And someone told me, a friend of mine, that Oklahoma is a friendly state. So I'm a very social guy. Afghans are very socializing people. So I wanted to start with a friendly state. And it is a conservative state as well. It's on the Bible Belt.
He says his people just need to catch a breath.
We were tired. We were frustrated. And we came from a place where there were war, fighting, terrorism, and we were intimidated. So we were very tired. So all we wanted is a good smile, a warm welcome. The challenges are the cultural challenges. It is sometimes a culture shock for some of these people. We came from a different country with a different culture.
Different diet.
Yes, the food is different, the clothing is different, even the hygiene is different, everything.
The language.
The language is different, and most of my community don't speak the language.
But they're willing to learn.
We have skills and we have the capacity. It's just about just helping us, showing us how to find our way.
Last question. What do you know about football?
Well, I love football, but my son is a good football player.
Soccer?
Yeah, American soccer.
Bashari says he cannot stress enough how grateful these people are to be in the Sooner State.